Hi everyone. So I'm going to be talking about some topics on Unit 4. It's going to be teacher talking time, waiting time for questions, more student talking time than teacher talking time. Then I'm going to show you an infographic I made about feedback. And after that, I'm going to talk a little bit about classroom management. So first of all, I'm going to talk about teacher talking time. I think teacher talking time is very important because we are the lead of the classroom. And it's even worse when you have, like in my case, I've worked at Sabetis, and I had 50 or 51 students in one group. And when you're not like the lead, or when your students don't see you as the lead of the classroom, it's very difficult to give instructions or to bring activities to the class, especially dynamic activities to the class. Thankfully, that wasn't my case. I think I got good control of the class, a good classroom management, even though that was the first time I was teaching. So yeah, teacher talking time is very important for students, for the class in general, but we have to be careful to not make ourselves the one that is talking the most on the classroom. So waiting time for questions. This is important, but at the same time, I think it makes me more nervous. For example, in my case, when a teacher asks me a question and I don't know the answer, if the teacher like stands in front of me and waits for me like more than, I don't know, more than 6 seconds for me to answer, and I'm like in blank, I get more nervous and I stop thinking about the answer. I just like get my mind in blank and I don't know the answer. So I think that sometimes, and it will depend on your student, it will help your class if you provide some seconds. I think at least some 5 seconds to your student to answer the question you're asking. But sometimes it can make your student a little bit more nervous. So what would I do or recommend is that if you're going to give your student some time to think the question, to provide some prompts. If you're seeing that your student is a little bit lost or completely lost with your question, you could add some prompts, and that will help your student to answer the question. Okay, so next one, I have some notes here. More student talking time than teacher talking time. Yeah, I think we can improve this in our classrooms by applying or using communicative activities. When the teacher is just standing in front of the class and the students are listening and maybe writing, it's when the classes get more monotonous. That's why I put this image. So at the beginning of the semester, let's say that your students might be interested in what you're saying, but maybe when you're like on the last bimestres or parciales units, they're going to be like this, like in the image. And it has happened to me with other teachers. When I'm the student, it gets bored. It gets boring when the teacher is the one that is doing all the talking. And especially with us, since we're teaching a language, the students are expecting to learn how to speak it, not only how to write it or how to listen to it and understand. Then I'm going to show you a visual I made about feedback. So I made this in a page called Picture Chart. I'm going to explain it very quickly. Okay, so I had to download the image because my internet was super slow. So okay, the importance of feedback on ESL learners. Then I found a concept for feedback. It says, feedback is an essential part of language, learning, and teaching that influences students' learning and achievement. It helps both the teachers and their students meet the goals and instructional means in learning and teaching. Alright, so I think that a class without feedback is not useless, but it's not meaningful enough. Because when you're learning a language, well, personally, I want like the teacher to tell me somehow how am I doing, not only by checking my exam. I want to know how am I doing when I do my homework, or when I'm talking, when I'm producing. So that's what I think, why I think that feedback is very important. Then I wrote down positive aspects and negative aspects of feedback. I'm going to read the positive aspects. The first one, it says students get to know how well they're doing. So this is what I was talking about myself. The teacher can motivate students to keep going in the class. Students get a chance to know where they need to improve, and students feel good when their hard work is acknowledged. So this is very motivating. Feedback is very motivating for a student, and it doesn't matter if it's for children, teenagers, or in this case for adults. It can always be motivating. And I think that a big part of learning is to find or to get the luck of having a teacher who is nice to you, because there are many ways of giving feedback, and if you do it, there are many ways of giving feedback. So I think that some teachers can come up as mean. So if you're going to give feedback, you're going to be mean or hurt the feelings of your students, I think it has no point. Feedback is to make your students feel better and to motivate them to keep going, as it says here. The teacher can motivate students to keep going. I think that's the principal part of, or the main part of feedback. So for the negative aspects, if teachers overpraise their students, they get used to it and don't look at positive feedback as something real. So they get used to the praise, you know. Second one, the teacher sometimes don't take enough time to get feedback, and it come up as super short and undetailed. And the last one, teachers' comments can come up as mean, and students get discouraged in their learning. So that was what I was trying to explain earlier. Some comments, maybe we don't mean them as something bad, but if we don't be careful with the words we use, we can hurt our students' feelings, even though if we're dealing with adult learners. So the last part is about feedback techniques. I wrote down to create a positive atmosphere with praise, advice, and encouragement. We can do that with these three things. Next, show students they can do better and motivate them with correction. And lastly, let students know how they're doing with assessment and evaluation. So assessment all along in your class, and evaluation at the end of the parcial, bimestre, or the units. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit, now that we have finished with feedback, about classroom management. And something that I wanted to talk about, and it's also the anecdote part of the video. It's about classroom management, but about correcting or not correcting. So I was recording my video a couple weeks ago about the micro teaching we're going to deliver in this subject, and I put the students to read. I told them, you're going to read and you're going to stop when you see a period, and then the person behind you is going to continue with the reading. So they were like 12 students, I think, and they started the reading, and everybody was reading normally. I corrected some words that they said, or when they didn't know how to pronounce a word, they looked up at me. I was in front of them sitting, and they look clueless to me, and then I helped them to pronounce the word they were having troubles with. So we finished the activity, we finished the video, and then the teacher gave us feedback. The how do you say it? The maestra titular of the group. So she told me that I didn't correct all the mistakes that students made when they were reading out loud to me or to the class, and she recommended me to always correct all the mistakes when they were reading aloud. Okay, so since the reading aloud activity I was making with the students was about, well, at first I thought it was about making them understand the text, but then the teacher told me that they probably didn't understand the text at all. That was her opinion. So she told me that the activity was more for pronunciation, and that I had to make them repeat every word that they have said wrong after I said that word correctly. So I had to stop the reading and make them repeat the word correctly. And I agree with her at the time, but now that I analyze it, I think it wouldn't be so beneficial, because you're pointing out like all the mistakes of to your student, and I was only pointing out like those big mistakes, like words that are completely mispronounced. Those were the mistakes that I was correcting only, and the teacher wanted me to correct everything they said wrong. So I just told them to, I just repeated the word correctly, and then they listened to it and said it again. So I think that was enough, but for the teacher it wasn't. And that's okay. I mean, every teacher has his or her own opinion. Okay, so I think this is it for the video. Thank you very much for listening.